Thank you, Ward. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Tuesday Torah class. And let me open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we could come together tonight and look at your word and learn about the beginning of your creation. And Father, we thank you so much for all your blessings, your kindness towards us, and your mercy. We thank you. We pray this in Yeshua's name. Amen. So as you see, I made a chart. So you recall last week we quoted Isaiah 46:10, which says that he declares the end from the beginning. And so you can refer to this as we go along because the whole week of creation is a prophetic picture basically of our whole history, right? So each day corresponds to a person or persons, as you can see, and also a feast day in succeeding order. And also I put the first 2 millennium is the age of the Father, second 2 millennium, age of the Son, and the last 2 millennium is the age of the Spirit. So we're right about somewhere right close to this line here. So we're getting close, right? Getting close to day 7. So we left off in day 3, I believe. I think we read the first part of it. Day 3 actually has 2 parts. The waters coming together to make the seas and the dry land being formed. And the second part we'll start reading there in verse 11. And God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. Verse 14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and years." And so, actually this word for seasons is the word moedim, and I always used to think when I would read this that, oh, he's talking about winter, summer, spring, that kind of thing. But really what he's got a little louder there. Really what he's talking about is his set-apart times, because that's what Moedim means. So he put the lights in the sky, the sun and the moon, so that we can keep track of when these our feast days will happen. Did you have a comment? Oh, okay. Yeah, Mark said that same word is used in Deuteronomy. Was it Numbers 28 to refer to the prayer times, the morning 9 to 10 a.m. and then the evening 3 to 4 p.m. So that's a whole study in itself, talking about set-apart times, and it's very interesting. Also, the word for signs, or sign is ot. So, signs in the sky, seasons, days, and years. So, go ahead.
Interesting, because it does say the heavens, and they are for signs, seasons, days, and years. So the seasons. There is a constellation up there that is an altar.
An altar?
An altar.
Yeah.
Burning fire, like it's, yeah, with flames coming off of it, yeah. So it's, again, tying into the morning and evening offering time. So I thought that was kind of interesting when I saw the altar. I was like, wow,
Wow.
there's an altar right up in
Do you know
here.
the name of the constellation?
I think it's, I'll look, but I think it is altar. I think
It's
it is
what?
altar. I think it is altar, but I'll look.
Oh, it's called altar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, verse 15, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. So the greater light, of course, is the sun, right? And the lesser light would be the moon. And the stars. It's almost like an afterthought, and the stars. But so the moon actually gives off its own light. I've always been told that growing up that it reflects the sunlight, but according to the Bible, you've heard this? Never heard that? But according to the Bible, it actually gives off its own light. Did you have a comment, Donnie?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm not sure how true this is because I didn't do the research myself, but somebody measured the temperature of the moon reflection and it was cooler
Yeah.
than the outside temperature or something. So they made the argument, how could it be reflecting the sun and then be a cooler temperature?
Right. Yeah, I've heard that too, where the temperature in the moonlight is like a coldness. If you were to step in the shade, so to speak, under a tree, it would be warmer. And I don't know specifically that, like you say. I guess the way to test it is just go out on a moonlit night, on a summer day, and usually here, I mean, it's 90 degrees at night. So if you stand in the moonlight and the temperature drops maybe to 85, you'd say, wow, that's pretty cool. And God set them in the expanse. Oh, go ahead.
The altar's name is Ara,
Ara.
A-R-A. And just to remind everybody, the Genesis 1:14, what has the authority to determine the moeds?
Genesis 1:14. The lights in the sky.
Sun, the moon, and the stars?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no barley.
No barley. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No barley, folks. Sorry. So that's the first thing you would go by, right? The signs, the lights in the sky. Yeah. Verse 17. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. So up until this point, day 1, 2, and 3, there were no lights in the sky, but there still was light and dark. So determine how you will what that actually entailed. And vegetation, yeah. But we'll see in a little bit that the vegetation hadn't actually grown yet. But that takes place in chapter 2. And I did think it was kind of interesting when day 4 kind of relates in that fourth millennium. That was the time of, you had kings and prophets who were kind of like the shining stars of Israel. You went from just the tribes, the children, and then they went, and they were like, go ahead.
So it does say in 1:12, the earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed after their kind, before the sun and moon are created.
Okay.
So it says, verse 12, the earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed after the kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in them, after the kind,
Right.
and God said it was good. And then, of course, you go to 14, and now comes the light, the sun and the moon. So
Okay.
somehow they
Yes.
were able to. They
There
were
was
able to.
something there. I mean,
They were able to bring forth seed from
yeah.
something other than the sunlight.
Well, I actually thought about that when I was reading in chapter 2, because it talks about there's a mist going up from the land, watering the whole face of the ground. Or actually before that, when no bush of the field was yet in the land and no small plant, so that when he made man, was there no vegetation yet? And I was wondering, well, on day 5, when he creates, as we'll see, the fish and the birds, what did they eat for that day? I don't know. Maybe they ate the seed that was planted in the ground. Go ahead.
Comment. Also, when we look at the 7 days of creation on your whiteboard, that fourth day is, we're putting kind of a name to each one of those days, and it looks like Yahusha is for the fourth day.
Yeah.
If you kind of make that into a menorah, I've seen this study where the menorah is the
Right.
6 branches and the one root, and if you go to John 15, when Yahusha says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser," it's almost like the root, the fourth,
Right.
one of those candle holders goes right into
Yeah.
the ground.
The sprout of Jesse, or the root of Jesse. Go ahead.
So if you're wondering what in the world, is Adam wandering around in the dark because there's no sun yet?
Yeah.
Is he wandering around in the dark, groping around, trying to figure out which way is left and right? But if you think about it, Revelation says there will no longer be any night, and they will not have the need of the light of a lamp or the light of the sun, because Yahweh Elohim will illuminate them, and they will reign forever and ever. So the same light that was illuminating Adam in the garden before the sun is going to be the same light illuminating this earth in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he is light.
Yeah.
So verse 20, going into day 5, and God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens." So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." There was evening, there was morning, the 5th day. So on the 5th day, he created everything that lives in the seas and everything that flies in the air. Birds, mainly. Verse 24, and God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to their kinds." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the first part of day, this is day 6 now. First part of day 6, he creates all the livestock, of the cattle, sheep. What else is livestock? Goats, cows. Is a horse livestock? I guess it would be. And then all the creeping things, insects basically, and every type of animal you could think of. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So he makes us in his image. So when you think, what does that mean? What is his image? What would you say? And the Hebrew word is selem. Go ahead.
Just going to say, you're in day 6 here.
Uh-huh.
We're in the day 6,
Day 6
now.
now, yeah.
Is he creating a people in his image now, paralleling with what he did here in day 6 of creation?
Yeah.
Creating us to be in his image, as meaning walking in the character
Right.
that he intended us to walk in the garden, so that he can now gather that bride
Yeah.
and bring her to the garden, so that we can now be what we were intended to be from the beginning.
Right. Because he made man the second part of the day. And that's a good point, because now we're seeing, as the time is growing closer, he's like calling out more and more people, more than really have been called out ever since the beginning, the very first century. And it seems like there's been a big gap in history. There's always been a remnant, but never, because pretty much the Catholic Church kind of ruled the religions of the world. But I was watching, I wish I could remember what it was. I think it was called Answers in Genesis or something. Have you ever watched any of those videos? And he was talking to a guy, a Hebrew scholar, and he said, when you think of the image of God, you think of the verbs that are used in chapter 1. He created, he spoke, he named things, and man is his ultimate creation, because he gives us the ability to speak and to communicate. That's something animals, they can't do that. So we have that part of his character in us, where he has given us the ability to communicate through speech. And also, he creates things. He's given us, creative abilities to, music, art. No one else, no animal on earth, they can't do these things. He names things, and we'll see it later how he tells Adam, give a name to all the animals. So we give names to things, right? So in a sense, we reflect his image in that way. It's also been said that we are, if you listen to Michael Heisner, that we're imagers of God, right? We're to go out and, like be representative of him. So I want to read something in my notes here. The word image, which is zalam, it's from an unused root meaning to shade, a phantom, figuratively, illusion, resemblance, hence a representative figure. So we're representing him. This says especially an idol, so it can be, either representing the Father or representing, the world. Take your pick. Psalm 73:20, just for an example of the opposite side. When you rouse yourself, you despise them as phantoms, or tzelem. And it's used 15 times in Daniel 2 and 3. Daniel 2 talks about the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, and he saw these beasts. That's the word zelem. And then in chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar actually goes out and creates an image of the beast, and he orders the people to bow down to the image of the beast. And that kind of is looking towards the end. We're talking about the image of the beast. What's the image of the beast and all that? There's some other words for image. The main word other than zalem is this word pesel, which means a carved image or a graven image, basically an idol. And okay. So verse 27, and this is a poetic passage. So God created in his own image, in the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. So if you're confused about how many genders there are, it says right here, male and female he created them. Zakar and Nekove, I think that's it, Nikova, that's female. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life. I have given you every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And it was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. So up until now, things have been good, but he looks at the whole of his creation that he's done, and he says, it's very good. Tov meod. Yes?
Quick question.
Sure.
Just back in verse 26, and maybe this is too long of a study, but when it says, let us make man in our image.
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And
What do you think it means?
well, growing up as a Catholic, they pointed to the Trinity.
Yeah.
And then also, I think even as an evangelical Christian, that was always my answer.
Yeah.
That was my canned answer. What else?
Your go-to answer. I kind of agree with how Michael Heisner describes it as the divine council. He's talking to his council. And, just seeing what they're thinking. What do you guys think? Should we get in their input? Pardon me? Michael Heisner? Oh, he has a teaching on, I believe it's is it Psalm 82. Yeah. Yeah. But it's a very interesting idea. I mean, we could read Psalm 82 if you'd like.
Also on
That
YouTube,
is right,
on
Psalm.
YouTube, the Logo Software has released the documentary called Unseen Realm.
Uh-huh.
It's free now. So if you go to YouTube
Oh.
and search Unseen Realm documentary, there's an excellent documentary there that you can watch about it. Unseen Realm, yes, an Unseen
Yeah.
Realm documentary. It's on Logos Bible Software channel.
Oh, okay.
But you just search it on YouTube, and it's free now. It used to be you had to pay for it. The YouTube channel is Kingdom Truths Plural Revealed. If you got to put the S on the end of the thing, if you search for it, it won't come up.
Yeah. The Unseen Realm .com, is that it?
What?
That website you just said.
No, on YouTube,
Oh,
there is a channel for Logos Bible Software. Okay, they have a channel on YouTube. And on that channel, they have released a number of, actually, they've released a bunch of documentaries that are now free. You can just watch them on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you go to the search bar in YouTube and you type in Unseen Realm documentary, in the search results will be the unseen realm, and you'll see it'll say Logos Bible Software.
Okay.
It's an excellent, excellent documentary.
And the book by Michael Heisner, Unseen Realm, is very good too. You learn about it.
If you go to the Kingdom Truths Revealed and you pull up the video that we put on there, in the video description, I put a long list of links, clickable reference links.
Oh,
and there's
okay.
links in there to the Unseen Realm book, to some of his other books. There's links to a whole bunch of videos from like Knox Seminary, and I mean, it's a long list. If you want to study the subject, there's a massive amount of material there for you can start studying.
So this is your guys' YouTube channel, right? Okay.
Yeah, the name of the video on that channel is Who and What Are the Elohim?
Okay. So why don't you say the name so people listening know the name of your channel?
The channel is Kingdom Truths Revealed.
Kingdom Truths Revealed. Okay.
And it's Who and What Are the Elohim?
Okay. Thank you. So Psalm 82, and this is what Michael Heisner uses for his basic text. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. So the gods being Elohim, small case letter, meaning any spiritual being is an Elohim, where Yahuwah he's a spiritual being, but we refer to him as Elohim with a capital E, although in Hebrew there's no capitalization, but so he is the supreme God, right? That's the idea. But an Elohim just in itself is just a spiritual being, not necessarily him alone, right? Although he is the main one. Go ahead.
I was just going to say in Psalm 82, the Greek really puts it strong. It says, Elohim stood in a gathering of Elohims.
Yeah.
But in their midst, he discerningly judges Elohims.
Yep.
So in other words, that's why he says, I am the highest Elohim, because if he really was the only, you would need to make a distinction of being a highest if you're the only God. So he is the ultimate highest divine being in all of creation. Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend reading that book, Unseen Realm. It's very good. So how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods, or Elohim, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die and fall like any prince. Arise, O Elohim, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all nations. So this whole psalm kind of encapsulates what will happen, because
So Michael makes a really good point about this, and he says, because people will say, well, he's talking about, like Adam and the righteous men versus the evil men. He's referencing men that are sons, because it does talk about human beings being sons of God.
right.
So people say, well, no, he's not talking about sons of God. But so Michael says, and of course Ward points this out in the video, in verse 6 it says, I said you are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High. Nevertheless, you will die like men. And so Michael Heiser says, if he's talking to men, why would he need to say you're going to die like men? Because they already know they're going to die like men. But if they were a divine being, and he's telling them you're going to die like human beings, that would be a degrade in your status. Yeah. So it's a great point.
So it contains the phrase, the sons of the Most High. the son, which we'll come to in when we get to chapter 6. I hope you're not in Hawaii then, but also there's back in Deuteronomy, was that Deuteronomy 32, I believe, or something around there? I didn't. I'd have to.
Deuteronomy 32 is the disinheritance of the nations.
Yeah,
and
that
the,
part,
and the
yeah.
allotments. The allotments.
Do you know where that would be specifically? Not 32.
It's
Oh,
in-
it
I
is.
think it's in 32, isn't it?
Oh, here it is. 32, verse 8. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. So, what he's talking about, these Elohim, they had assignments to do guarding over nations. And what he's telling them in Psalm 82 is that you failed in what you were supposed to do. Now you're going to die like men. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and so as you're reading that, so he says, I'm going to read it in the Greek. When the Most High was apportioning nations, he scattered Adam's sons across and fixed boundaries of nations according to the number of the divine sons, the Elohims. And then he says, and his people Jacob became his own possession. So he
Yeah.
gave all these other men to other angels, but Yahweh says, I'm going to take this man, Abraham, and I'm going to make a nation of him for myself. I'm going to be the shepherd over this people. You guys have these lands. I'm going to take this little piece of land called Israel, and that's going to be my piece. And once I understood that, I realized why the enemy, the adversary, wants the land and the people, because he's always wanted everything that's God's. He already has all the other stuff. He wants the thing that he can't have.
Yeah.
And so he's out and after. That's why it says the dragon is wroth with the woman after her seed, because he's after the inheritance of Yahushua.
Yeah, and right now these...
It's a battle of the filth realm.
So right now, these entities, they have control of the nations, but the end of chapter Psalm 82, he says, "Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations." So eventually all nations will be under the control of Yahuwah, and the enemy will be booted out. Did you have more comment?
Michael Heiser refers to some other scholarly research, and actually has a podcast where he goes into a long discussion about what you just read. And we're talking about that phraseology, "Arise, O God." That's resurrection terminology.
Ah,
Quick question.
go ahead.
So in Psalm 82, when it says to the lowercase Elohim, you shall surely die like men, have they died? And if they have, who's over, like who's the return of the gods, and how they're like all have like a little area of the world that
Yeah.
they kind of control? Is that the same entities?
Have they died yet? Was that your question? They will surely die. I don't think they have yet. They're still in control.
A few, if you want to count this as dying, is there's a few, like the Watchers, that crossed the line so far, and what they did was so evil that they were immediately put in prison. They were locked up, until the latter times. So a bunch still stayed out free. So it just depended. After the Watchers came down, Yahweh drew a line in the sand with the flood and said, there's a certain point that if you go beyond a certain limit that I've set, judgment's coming right now. I mean, I'm not going to wait till end times, just like then there was the flood, to knock back what they were doing. But he said, any time you start getting in contact with humans and human women to start making more hybrids, more children, we're not going to wait. We're going to go ahead and bring down the fires. That happened at Sodom and Gomorrah. In my opinion, it happened with the Chicago fire. And many other places throughout history, this has happened, where there's these massive firestorms that come out of the sky. Egypt is a good example. You get these massive, it's both a carbon burning fire like we normally see, but combined with a plasma fire coming out of the sky and knocking all this stuff over and putting an end to what they're doing.
Research that in Egypt. It's called Tanis. The city is Tanis. And there's if you type in Brian Forrester, he's gone to Tanis, and just to hear his comments about what they're videoing, he says there's nothing growing on this soil at all. He says it's as if plasma came from the east and blew all of the granite apart. He said all of the statues and all of the obelisks are melted and destroyed on the east side of the structure. All the other four sides are they're not harmed, only on the east. And he says it's clearly that it had to have been something, a greater temperature than we understand, because granite being as hard as it is, it's totally defaced, and the obelisks are shattered into, many pieces. So, but if you go on YouTube and type in Brian Forrester, he and a bunch of people are going around and they're videoing the site called Tanis. And if you go on Google Earth and type in Tanis, you'll see where Tanis is. And it's a very, very interesting topic, because if you remember when they were running to Egypt for cover, he told them that he was going to destroy Egypt. And so I think this is one of the, possibly could be where the destruction came from of Egypt, where he said, I'm going to utterly destroy it. And because Tanis was the place where the obelisks were at. And
That's
yes.
Egypt?
Huh?
Is that in Egypt?
Yeah, Tanis, Egypt and it's really not too far from where they found Joseph's, from Goshen.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's just very fascinating. But if you're interested in studying those kind of things, it's pretty cool. So, but physical evidence, I like it when there's physical evidence of something happening that they can't explain. I mean, this is just how could this happen on one side of every object, the whole place, and the ground? He says it's as if the ground's been scorched. Nothing grows here, and I mean scorched deep. So something very hot came and ruined, the possibility of growth there totally.
Was Tanis a different time and place than Sodom and Gomorrah? I'm assuming. Okay.
Was it a different kind of fire?
Because the same thing happened at Sodom and Gomorrah, too.
If it was like Sodom and Gomorrah, it would have burned other sides of the obelisk other than the east side. And he actually says he thinks it was plasma, which is what Ward was just saying. He said because it would take, he said, we know that plasma is a certain temperature that would melt the one side of this. So, yeah, and who is it that comes from the east? The mighty one of Israel.
Mm. All right. Interesting stuff. So we've gone through these 6 days. Are there any other questions or about the chapter 2, verses 1 through 3, talk about the seventh day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Elohim finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So Elohim blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it Elohim rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So if you're wondering why do we worship on the seventh day of the week? There's your answer right there, right? I mean, it seems simple, but why did we spend so many years, at least I know I did, going to Sunday church? And I hear about Sabbath and thinking, oh, that's for the Jews. The Jews do that, right? But really, it's not Jews only. It's whoever wants to follow the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what you do, right? That's right, because we're grafted in. So in that first chapter, I counted up some of the phrases. The phrase, "and God said," pretty much prefaces every day. He says that 9 times. Day 1, day 2, he says it twice on day 3. Day 4, day 5, and he says it 3 times on day 6. And God said, and it was so. Vayhi ken, it was so. He says that 6 times. He doesn't actually say it on day 1, but he says it on day 2, twice on day 3, day 4. Doesn't say it on day 5, but day 6 he says it twice. And it was good. Ki tov. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring a little clarity to something, because you may have somebody in your walk that wants to challenge the clean and unclean with verse 29. Because when you're reading it, it would appear to say, then God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of the earth, and every green tree has fruit yielding seed. It all shall be food for you, and every beast of the earth, and every bird in every sky. So it's everything. We can eat everything. Mm-hmm. But that's not what it's saying. It really makes it clear in the Greek. The Greek says, and God says, I have given to you any herbage, sowable, seeding seed, which is over all the earth, and any tree that has in itself fruit of sowable seed. To you it shall be for food. And to all the wild animals of the earth it shall be food.
Yeah.
So in other words, he's not saying he's giving the animals for us to eat. He's giving all the green stuff for us and the animals to eat.
That's the way I kind of read it too.
Yeah, but there's people that will point it out. That will say, hey, this is saying that you can eat any animal and every bird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because it can look like that in the English, depending on what translation.
You could twist it enough to get it to say that, I guess. But yeah, when I read this, I see the same thing. It says, you shall have them for food, meaning the green things, and to every beast of the earth and to every bird of heaven, they shall have the same thing. That's the way I read it too. So this phrase, it was good, he says 6 times. Says it in for day 1. He doesn't say it on day 2. Says it twice on day 3. Says it on day 4, day 5, and day 6. And then on day 6, he also says in verse 31, very good, tov meod. And the word Elohim is used 32 times. So you'll notice his name is not used. It'll first be used here in chapter 2, but it's kind of like this chapter 1 and the first part of 2 is kind of, it's almost like a bullet point version of creation, right? He did this, day 1, he spoke, he created, day 2, did this. You know what I mean? It's just like right down the line. But every step of the way, it's building to when you get to when he creates man, and that's like the culmination. Everything that he created for us, right? And his plan was for, us to basically rule the earth justly, and we kind of see how that has turned out. But so, any questions, answers? Go ahead.
So your chart is showing a 7,000 year,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that each constellation is 2,000 years.
Right.
And so you can see that the age of the spirit is
2,000
Pisces.
years. Yeah.
Pisces.
Yeah.
The age of the sun is while it was in the ram, Aries. And the age of the father while it was in the bull.
The bull. Ah,
Yeah, the
that's
strong
interesting.
leader, yeah, which is Hebrews.
Yeah.
Kind of very interesting. Yeah.
And the Aleph in the paleo was the bull's head, and that's representative of the father. You could say the ram represents the sun. Yeah. Interesting. Go ahead. Did you have a question? Oh, did you have? Okay.
I kind of find it a little interesting that chapter 2 begins where it does. It would seem to me that chapter 2 should begin at verse 4.
I would agree.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts as to why that was divided?
Well, there
that
were
way?
no chapter and verse when they originally wrote it. Somebody thought that was a good idea. I don't know why, but so in chapter or verse 4, chapter 2, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that Yahuwah Elohim made the earth and the heavens. So this is the first time we'll see this word for generations, which is the Hebrew word toldot. And this word is spelled with two vavs in it. But when we run into this word, it's actually used 27 times in the Tanakh. And each time after this, it's always used in reference to, it's more like genealogies, right? Like the genealogy of Adam, the genealogy of Noah, on down the line. It goes all through Noah, his sons, Shem, Terah, Ishmael, Isaac, Esau, Jacob, and all the sons of Levi. And every time it talks about the generations of those people, one of those vavs is missing. In a few cases, both vavs are missing. And but when you get to the book of Ruth 4:18, the two vavs are restored to the word when it talks about the line of Perez. And of course, Perez was the ancestor of Boaz, who was married to Ruth, and Ruth was, I think she was the grandmother, right, of David. So there's 10 generations from Perez to David. But it's almost like it's when the world was created, it was created in perfection. So you have these two vavs, but then when man fell, starting with Adam, there was one vav missing. It's almost like it's saying man's messed it up. And now he's going to restore man to himself through the line of David. And of course, yeah. And so we know that Yeshua comes from the line of David. So, but it's interesting how he used basically a foreign woman, a Moabitess, Ruth, to restore the line. And so man could have he could go on and have a relationship with him. So I just think that's kind of cool. But it's an interesting study to do sometimes, just go through If you get a Thompson chain and just look at all the times he uses that word in the Tanakh, and you'll see all these names of these patriarchs from old, and talking about their generations, and it's always naming their sons and people following them. So in verse 5, when no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up, for Yahuwah Elohim had not caused it to rain on the land, and there was no man to work the ground. That's kind of where I got the idea, where I was wondering, well, there was no plants yet till man was coming around? And there was no man to work the ground, and a mist was going up from the land, and it was watering the whole face of the ground. Then Yahuwah Elohim formed the man of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living creature. So he formed the man, and this word yatsar, which means to mold into form, especially as a potter. It's used 3 times in this chapter, so it's kind of talking about, well, you know the verse, does the clay tell the potter how to form him? I think is that from Jeremiah? And so he's the potter, and so it kind of gives you a picture that he's like, he's an artist, right? And he's forming the man, like he's got the dust and the man, and he's like taking his time and doing, just making it just right. And that's how he created the first man. And in a sense, that's how he creates us, right? Because I think David talks about, you knitted me in my mother's womb. So like he's the one who formed us. So he's the potter, we're the clay. So who are we to tell him, I don't like the way you made me. I don't know if you've ever said that. I've probably said that a few times, like, I don't like this about myself, but who am I to tell him? He made me as I am. So he became a living creature. He breathed into him, into his nostrils. He breathed life into him. So he gives us life and breath, which is an awesome thing. And I thank Yahuwah for life every day. And the Lord and Yahuwah Elohim planted a garden in Eden, in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. So there's a garden. I've always used the term, because I've always heard this, the Garden of Eden, right? But it's not the Garden of Eden. It's a garden in Eden. Eden is a place, and the garden happened to be in that place. And out of the ground, Yahuwah Elohim made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So I find that interesting, because he says the tree of life is in the midst of the garden, meaning it's in the middle of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He doesn't really say where that tree is, so it must be somewhere. I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Yeah, or what the tree is, or tree of knowledge of good and evil. I've actually heard, Paul talks about Rabbi Foreman a lot. I listen to his stuff too. He does a thing how possibly it might be just one tree and 2 aspects of the tree of life and the tree of, I don't know if that's true, but it's just a thought.
So obviously it's hidden. And so a couple of places that would be easy to hide that would be one, under
Yeah.
the water, the flood covering it. The other would be on a place that's nearly inaccessible.
Right.
That would be a place like the polar region, especially the south, where it's
Right.
inaccessible.
where
So
they don't want you to go.
yeah. So
The people
I've
can-
often thought about that. You've got water covering a lot of the earth. And
Yeah.
so, we've probably only been to 20% of what is in the ocean.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's hidden. Yeah, it's going to come back.
Yeah. But the reason he mentioned it is because later, when Eve is talking in chapter 3, she mentions that they're forbidden from eating the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is in the midst of the garden. So I don't know if he kind of tied the two ideas together, but whether that's true or not, I can't really say. But it's an interesting idea. Verse 10, a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden. There it divided and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is the Pishon. It is the one that flowed around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And any idea where Havilah might be? I don't know. And the gold in that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is the Gihon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Cush. Now, Cush could be Africa. Is there a river that flows around Africa, or was there a river? Keep in mind, before the flood, the geography could have been a lot different than it is now. We don't really know exactly what it was like.
When I read this one year and looking at it in the Greek, it says that this river Pishon, in the Greek it says it encircles the whole land. So it's a river that encircles the piece of land.
Yeah.
But wherever that land is, it says that onyx grows there. Well, onyx doesn't grow everywhere in the U.S., so you can look and find out the places on the globe where onyx is
Right.
found, and you can
And
narrow
gold,
it.
too.
Huh?
And gold, too.
Yeah, and you can narrow it down to where onyx and gold are both have been found to be present, and you can get it narrowed down to a small area.
I do know one of the places that they've narrowed it down to possibly is the Philippines. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. But it's hard to tell for sure. Most people, I think the traditional view is that this garden in Eden, I won't say the Garden of Eden, this garden in Eden is in upper Caucasus Mountains, up in that area, northern Turkey or whatever. But even that's up for debate. I don't really know. The name of the third river is the Tigris. We've heard of that river, which flows east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. But once again, we don't really know, is he talking about that Tigris River and that Euphrates River? Because it must have been known to them in this time, those two rivers. And I kind of get the idea or the feeling that they knew something back then that we just don't know now. I don't know. So we're about out of time, so we'll stop right there. And anybody has any final comments or questions? So let me say a word of prayer, and we'll be done. Father, thank you for reading of your scriptures tonight. And Father, we thank you that just how you have created us to be imagers of you, Father, that I just pray that we may always bring glory to your name and represent you in a glorious way, Father, in a righteous manner. Father, thank you for this time together. We ask you just be with us as we go on our ways, and We thank you. Pray this in Yeshua's name. Amen. Thank you, guys. Thank you online. And we'll see you next week.